This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agnew.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. Today, I am extremely lucky. I usually say very lucky. Today, I'm extremely lucky to have John Trevisani, one of my friends from a former life, and pilot, author, entrepreneur, engineering manager, Phillies fan who doesn't have his Phillies hat on. John, welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Also a musician, too. I forgot about that. I see the guitar back there. I forgot you play music, too. You just don't have enough hobbies.
Yeah, well, my mother used to say, jack of all trades, master of none. So that was, my mother was really good at that stuff.
Speaking of your mother, where did you grow up? And did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur later in life?
Yeah, so I grew up one of five. I was one of five kids. Youngest. And there's a big age difference between me and the rest of the four. So I had a lot of alone time. That allowed me to be, let's just call it an entrepreneurial spirit. I would say getting myself into trouble, but it's called an entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. So I did a lot of that stuff, and I had a lot of different interests during that time.
All right. So we're going to fast forward a bit to your own business that you started. You had your own company, you had employees, you had the whole deal, and then you went back to the 9-to-5 life, which I am curious about. But tell me a little bit about the business you started. Where did that come from?
As with any business, it's solving a problem. So my problem at the time was I like to play golf. It's another thing. So play golf, and it sucked at that time to get tee times because you had to literally call up the course, wait on the phone, hopefully they answered it, and then try to get a time. I was like, that's stupid. You should just put everything online. Let me order it. And at that time, they didn't do it. It's the early 2000s. They didn't have that. They didn't have real time. There was a couple of people reselling tee times. It was not really what it was, but they didn't have real time. Like, this is a book, and they thought that their book was like the Bible. Like, you didn't change their tee book. That's, So I developed a system. It was real time that manages all their tee times, but also just put everything online. There's a bunch of different features on it. And so it solved my personal problem, which is I wanted to get tee times. So, and I figured other people would want that as well. And that was a really cool experience because, you have this product vision, and to see it go from like this idea to people using it and multiple courses using it exceeded my expectation. I partnered with somebody else who I thought who did sales, because I'm not a sales guy. I'm a product and engineering guy. So, it's not my skill set. I don't think I can sell. I don't know how to structure any of that stuff. So we did the whole VC thing. We got money, got angel money, got VC money, did the whole thing. And I learned a ton about what you're supposed to do when you get your money. Because what we learned was, or at least what I learned was, the person that I partnered with said, yeah, we don't need to start using that money until we reach, 250, until we raise like the minimum, which was 250 is what he told them. We were trying to raise $1 million. We raised, expecting to raise 250. This is at the time we're just trying to get off the ground. Even though that the advisors to him told him, just put 20,000, 50,000, because it just goes through an escrow. You don't worry about it. Never told me that. So we started burning money. I'm using it. I'm putting up servers. I'm putting up things. Yeah, we didn't meet that. So there's a limit. There's a time limit for that money. And that's when, if you don't read it, then everybody gets their money back. That's not a good thing. So that lasted for maybe 2 years, that run out, because it was me and my own systems running it. And then when we started getting people and started hiring people, we did. I had an engineering staff supporting me. We hired another salesperson. We started burning through a lot of money. So again, I didn't know that. And after I got through that, my friend said, hey, you got your MBA. So
that's very true. I mean, that's a common story, is that people who didn't get an MBA kind of get one by scraping it out and figuring it out for the first bit there.
But it was really cool because I remember being at one of the golf courses, right? And, I'm just installing something or whatever I was doing. And then there was a guy that comes up and he's like, what's this? And because we put placards out there saying, make sure you use it. We had a product called Pro Shop Express. And they were like, what? I can do this online? And the guy was like, yeah. He goes, great. You'll never hear from me again. Like that was his idea. Like he never wanted to call the course again. He hated it. And I was like, see, that's exactly what we were looking for, right? Like it told the story, like it solved his problem too. It solved their problem as well. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. Probably the most fun I ever had.
Have you wanted to chase that feeling now that you've done it? Are you itching to create something again like that?
Yeah, I think everything's been created by now. I think
there's not everything. Come on.
I don't know. I'm sure there's probably something out there. There's that feeling. I got to think that you get beat. It's a tough thing to put that much energy into it and then have it fail for things that you should have known. Like these are the obvious ones. Like one of the things I probably would do differently would be, it was product. I would get a finance person, the triad of startup. You get the sales guy, you get the finance guy, and you get the product guy. We didn't have the finance guy. We had the finance guy that probably would have done the right thing, but I had a patent pending. I had a patent pending for my software design, and that's expensive. At that time, it was very expensive. So that went away. And push notifications the next. Can you imagine?
You were ahead of the curve.
A little bit.
Now everybody. Now it's all online. Now if they call you, they tell you go online and book instead.
Right, exactly. And actually, we used that system for an off-Broadway. My brother was actually producing an off-Broadway musical, and we used that system for the ticketing.
What does off-Broadway mean? I mean, that's a stupid question, but like what?
So there's Broadway.
But
there's a bunch of other theaters.
Okay, so it's like near Broadway.
Yeah, down in that district somewhere.
Okay, so
there's a lot of theaters there.
All right. I got that like off-Broadway wasn't on Broadway, but I wasn't quite sure what that meant.
Yeah, they're smaller. There's smaller theaters and stuff. And then the idea is if you get a foundation for it, you can maybe go on Broadway. Like anything else.
Interesting. What the hell made you write a book about serial killers?
Well, it's an interesting topic to me. And what this particular thing, the genesis for this was based around, I heard a quote, and it was from Jeffrey Dahmer. And Jeffrey Dahmer said, my refrigerator broke and the meat spoiled. And because that's what he told the police that showed up at his door about the smell that was coming from his apartment. I was like, man, that's so chilling. Like that just got me into the mind of a serial killer. So I went down that path. Because my first love was more psychology than tech. So I was always interested in psychology things. And that's where that went. And it led me down to understanding their words, how they think or what they're thinking and how they could possibly come up with what they say. It was really great. So I just went on a lot of research rant for a while. And it was just me just learning. And I was like, this is kind of cool. Maybe I could make something from it. It was like, I was just on an information seeking, journey. And then out of that, I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. So learning a lot about, not learning, I shouldn't say cool, let's put it that way. So it was gruesome and it was dark, but.
And it was fun.
Hey, well, I got to tell you, writing it, when I jump ahead to when I'm getting published and they were like, okay, you need to flesh everything out. Oh my God, that was a really rough time because, picking and choosing what you put in the book and then it was really not a helpful experience. I had to step away and I will go for walks and stuff to come back because it gets really dark. But so I just was really interested in that subject, and pop culture is going to support that because, now you can throw anything up on Netflix and Hulu and you're going to see nothing but serial killer stuff, and true crime. So it was interesting for me more from a psychological perspective. I really just was really curious about their headset. And so I was like, since I had amassed all this information, I said, well, maybe I can make something from it. So I started to make a manuscript. So I made a manuscript. Like, all right, see what this is.
Did you just like Google that stuff though? Did you?
No, it was, No,
Like,
because
how
I,
did you
I
find
try
out
to
even
make
what to do?
so. Yeah, that's a good question. So I had, in order for me to use any of that data, it was all had to be public. So it was public. These are court records. And so that's actual, like I went to libraries and stuff and to research. And yeah, you can go up online, but they also have to be public. So it wasn't like I just sat in front of the screen. I was actually hunting things down. And the same thing with images. Any of the images have to be public. So any of the mug shots and such, they're all public. But, if somebody takes a picture for a magazine, I can't, unless I get citation, I can't do it. So it was that kind of thing. I kept that try to keep it on the up. But yeah, that was just a lot of research. I read books. And then from the books, I would then research what they said. And then, there was a lot of interesting reading and a lot of interesting watching. And so after I had that manuscript, I said, all right, well, see, this is cool. I think everybody's going to want this. I do have kind of a different sense of humor, but I just thought that other people might want to also read it. So I then bought a book. It said how to get published or whatever. It was like the Idiot's Guide to Publishing or whatever. And what I learned from that was that guy the person that wrote that book knew more about the market than I did, because it was a bad book. It didn't help me in any way, shape, or form. All it did was I amassed piles of rejection emails and letters and everything. It was just, I went to publishers, unsolicited material they don't like, all the different tiers of publishers, not just like the Penguins and the Random House and such, but other tiers of publishers. Nope. They were, unsolicited material. So then I went to agents, literary agents. Again, same thing. You can find literary agents and maybe looking for unsolicited information and manuscripts, but they're few and far between. So I just got a lot of ghosting and I got a lot of rejection. So after a while, I was like, whatever, I spent a while trying to do that. And I just figured, nope, I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the market isn't there. Maybe nobody wants it. But what I did was, because, I'm in tech, I kept all the data of my research in the database. So I just kept that into a database. And so what I would do to learn new technologies, new languages or frameworks, etc., I would write to that. So I would write the basic same app every day, every time, just with new platform, just as I would learn new technology. And one of which was I was like, all right, I'm going to write an Android app. Sure. I wrote an Android app. Do not download it. I think I'd removed it. It was brutally bad because I'm not, I just wanted to prove the technology, whether or not I can write an app and then I can go to my database and come back and display it. That's all. But what was really odd about it was I put it up on the store and I was like, boy, I wonder if anybody's actually going to download this. And I saw numbers click and I said, wow, I got 10. Wow. I said, maybe I'll get to 100. That's what I was thinking. Maybe I'll get to 100. I was thinking that. But then when it passed 1,000 and 5,000 and such, it was kind of crazy to me. I'd never thought that so many people would download this awful app, but just had an interest because there was no marketing involved. This was just organic. That, I stopped looking at 30,000. A lot of people started downloading. And so I developed an iOS app. Again, not a good app. I'm just trying to figure that out. Works. The app worked. It displays it. And then I watch the numbers. Thousands of people, tens of thousands of people are downloading the app and they're rating it. I don't know why they would rate it. It's awful. I would rate it a 2, but they were rating it and they were downloading it. And I was getting demographic because I was like, wow, look at this. The numbers were consistent. 55% women to 45% men. Never thought that. I would never have thought that the numbers would be slanted women. And that went from every, slice from 20 to 30, 30 to 40, all the way up. It was sliced up that way. Because I would have figured it would have been 16 to 45, 16 to 25 kids, boys, but it wasn't. So the demographic information was just unique to me. I was like, that's really kind of cool. Now, one of the other apps that I wrote was a Facebook app because I wanted to learn how to do that. So I wrote a Facebook app that would populate, this stuff onto a page. And again, it was just organic. And then I watched the number of people liking that page, just more. Thousands of people started liking that page. Like, well, I guess that's just what it is. And the demographics are the same, 55-45. It was still crazy, even at Facebook. And one of the persons that liked the Facebook and, followed the Facebook app was a it was an editor for publishing for a book. And so he reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in making a book?" And I thought, I don't trust, my red flags are up. Is this guy real? I don't really know. So talked to him. He's real. He's an author himself, and he's an editor for a smaller publishing house. I was like, yeah, sure. Let's talk. Talk through it. Had to convince the main publisher that this would work because Brian, who was the editor, he was truly believed that this would sell. He really thought this would be a book sell. Now I had all this data to tell the publisher saying, nope, look, thousands of people, these are tens of thousands of people that are all downloading these apps that are on Facebook. They're definitely in the ecosystem for this market. There's a market for it. So it satisfied his business objective. Like, I'm not just going to waste my money putting out publishing a book. I'm going to, make sure that this sells. And yeah, so that ran pretty quickly. That cycle of being contacted by the editor to talking to the publisher and stuff like that was relatively quickly. It was maybe, I want to say 5 to 6 months. And during the last month before it went to final, there was a lot of rewriting and such. And that was when it got dark because I really had to focus on it. It wasn't just sort of like a side thing. Now I had to actually focus on it. And it became very difficult and arduous for me to sit and write and pick and choose what I was going to use because it's a dark subject, but it worked out. And we did cover art and stuff. And that was another thing that was kind of fun. It was like, wow, I like the cover art. I gave them the cover art for the very first one, which I still love because I thought it was eye catching and it was gruesome. And I thought that it would help, and they used it for the ebook, but they didn't use it for the paperback because they wanted something more recognizable from the serial killer. So they would use pictures from them as opposed to the ebook, which was, generated something I conjured up in my head. So I thought it was more shocking. But yeah, so we did that and it launched on ebook first. And that was another thing to sit there and watch. I was looking at the number. Like, I don't have the numbers because I'm not the publisher, but I can look at like the top 10 lists and top 20 lists on it because it launched on Amazon. And I was like, wow, it's top 4 in true crime. Like it reached one in a couple different categories, not true crime, but like I would never guess. So it was selling. And that was another weird thing to see that, wow, look, the idea worked and it's actually selling and people are doing it. So now we're into multiple years. It's still selling. It's just like the editor, like Brian, who was the editor, agreed. He said, this is going to continually sell. This is going to be like a coffee table book that people buy and put on the coffee table and go, oh, this is interesting. And it'll be a conversation piece, which is what it's turned out to be. And it goes through cycles but what was really interesting to me that I learned was every book, it's a product and it undergoes the same scrutiny that you would have if you were going to launch a new product within my golf tea time product, right? So it goes through the same thing. Identifies the market. Who's going to buy it? Why is it unique? What's the differentiators between you and competitors? How do you market? How are you going to talk to them? All of those things relate to a book, which is a creative effort. I just thought that was very helpful. And if it was in that original book that I bought, probably would have been helpful.
Yes. Well, did you learn enough that you would want to do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that they were talking about follow-ups and I talked about other follow-ups. So maybe not doing the same thing, but doing something else in the same genre, but something. Yeah.
Did anybody give you shit for, did anybody hit you with like you're glorifying serial killers, giving them a stage, all that sort of stuff? Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're just going to have to accept that it's not going to hit everybody. Right. And I just said, don't buy it.
Yeah,
it's okay. I mean, people make, I don't know. People make dishes that people object to. So,
right.
Because they, some people are vegan and they don't like people eating meat. So they were going to reject it. And they have a valid point. They have a valid point to me saying might be glorifying it. I don't know if I'm glorifying. I'm just telling you what they're saying and then the background around it. So
Yeah.
it's gruesome. I mean, in some cases, but I think it talks to their mindset. That's why I thought it was different.
And does it, like you said, the cycles, does it follow any sort of pattern? Like when the Dahmer series became like a big thing, did they kind of come back around? Or has there been any events that you can kind of tie back to its popularity coming back up?
No, it's like we thought we would see a uptick when Dahmer hit. No, it was just consistent. We had some weird uptick in 2021, like sold it. It was actually our largest year of paperback sales. Like, and no one really knew why. Like,
are you at liberty to say how many you've sold or per year or any sort of numbers?
So I don't have any distinct numbers, but I was told I'm a 5%er. And what that means is in independent publishers, because they're independent publishers, they're not like the random houses where they're putting millions of copies out. If you read a certain threshold, which is most of the majority of books sell under, I think most independents sell less than 1,000. Like it's really small. But if you sell more than 10,000 copies, then you're in the 5%.
Okay.
Already in the 5%. Which is
crazy.
They
don't tell you how many you sell though. That part is bizarre to me.
The book industry is an interesting thing because there's the sale and then there's the distribution. And so the big ones, they ship them to the stores. And then they'll ship them 300 copies or something like that. And then they might sell 20. And then the store sends back the other results, but they already counted for the 300. That's why when you look at the New York Times bestsellers, it's mostly a little bit about just the shipping more so than the actual sales. But don't get me wrong, they're selling hundreds of thousands of books, but just exactly how accurate that is, we're not sure.
Interesting. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people lately that have been authors and have talked about the process and how Amazon has kind of made that easier over the years. And like now, apparently it's not, I don't know. When did you write your book? When did it come out originally?
15.
Okay. Yeah. So what, 9 years ago, something? Yeah.
I'm like, now it is. 8. Yeah.
All right. Well, this was fantastic. You have a hard stop. So we're going to wrap it here. I do have one question for you though.
Yep, go for it.
Non-business related, non-book related. Let's just go with a bucket list item. Anything on earth, if you could do, and you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
What I knew it could fail?
You knew you could not fail.
Yeah. So something in nonprofit related to pets. Like I would love to do something to like a big farm and give home to dogs and stuff like that. Love to do that.
Dog farm. Johnny's dog farm.
Johnny's dog. Yeah.
I have not heard a dog farm. So you win another unique answer for Johnny. All right. Well, John, you're a legend. I love having you in my life, and I thank you for being on the show, and we'll catch up again soon. All right.
Thanks again, Jay.
Thanks, John. See you.